Hello everyone and thank you for joining us. My name is Gisela and I will be the moderators for today's webinar. Before we dive into the content, let me cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application engagement tools that you can use. All these engagement tools are raisable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can also expand your presentation area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows on the top right corner. If you have any audio or video issues, you can find some answers to some common technical problems located in the Help widget at the bottom of your screen. Please note that the copy of today's slide deck and additional resources are available in the resources list. Please have a look and download everything that you may find useful. On top of this, the webinar will be recorded and sent to the email you registered with. Lastly, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can submit them through the Q&A widget. We are here to answer you live into the chat, so don't hesitate to reach out. If we run out of time or we don't manage to answer your questions, we will make sure to follow up later by email. Now, I would like to pass it over to our speaker, Patrick.
Thank you, Gisela, and hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Knowles, and I come from a background of systems engineering across the aerospace and defense industry in both defense and commercial space. During my time in industry, I was a systems engineer, lead systems engineer, and systems engineering manager, where I've been privileged to see multiple different product development processes and life cycles. Today, I want to share my experience in industry and marry that with how Jama Connect can help each of your teams be empowered to effectively improve and develop products. During today's webinar, I will share the key challenges of developing complex products and how Jama Connect can help alleviate these pain points. This will include how collaboration can mitigate issues teams face, how compliance to standards and regulations can be simplified, and how to accelerate the final portion of product development, V&V. At the end here, we will have time for questions. So Gisela mentioned that, and we'll get to that there. Please add questions as we go so we can answer them. And of course, as you see here on the agenda, each of these things is going to be, itemized out. And really, I want to focus as we go here right away on the challenges that we've seen customers face. So what are they? What are the complex things that they're seeing in the world of development? Well, what we're hearing from customers is that they need to move faster, that their products are becoming more complex, and integration of the engineered products as well as within teams is becoming increasingly common. In engineering, we like to go fast, we like to run first and fail early, none of which is inherently bad. However, when teams are unprepared for the inevitable mistake or misstep, things can fall off the rails pretty quickly. Teams that are pushing to keep on schedule sometimes miss standards, regulations, or even properly validating their product. Many times these things that teams kind of lose track of, they lose track of their documentation that will be critical to the field, when they go to field that product. Things get lost in emails, Slack channels, Teams chats, or worse, on someone's hard drive that gets left out in the rain, of course. That would be the nightmare scenario. Moving fast, is probably the root of many of these issues, but it can be prevented by teams doing some other things that don't inherently slow them down. As we progress throughout today's webinar, my hope and what I'm trying to get across here is that it becomes incredibly clear that we want to enable your teams to run at full speed from the get-go here at Jama. The pressure of speed is of course not the only challenge teams face, though. The products that we develop nowadays are becoming more and more complex, right? If we think about just the evolution of a calculator or a cell phone or a computer over the last 20 years. Everything is getting smaller, tighter, better form, better fit, better function, but that also increases the complexity. So when all the parts are moving, all the data is spread across a plethora of channels, and teams are pushed to develop to the next generation of the greatest gadget, these increased complexities lead to preventable failures becoming unfortunately more routine, but we are going to discuss some of the ways to treat that as we go forward here. Creating a thread of data that can be traced from the top to bottom is one of those ways in which Jama Connect can support a team facing these issues. In fact, starting simple in Connect can help a team develop their complex products more efficiently. But as you will see later in this presentation, start simple does not mean you must maintain that simple starting point. In fact, we actually really want to talk about how you evolve and optimize as you go forward. That's really the main theme that you're going to see throughout this presentation. Finally, integration between teams and products is becoming more and more challenging, particularly in the end stages of development. Teams are typically fantastic at creating things and talking together while they're creating them, but when it comes to properly confirming that they created the right thing in the right way, we see a lot of unforced errors, to use a sports term, that typically is due to a lack of centralized stream of consciousness, where all the thoughts, all the design energy goes into the same centralized location. This, of course, does not have to be the case, and in fact, we will spend a good portion of today's session discussing collaboration and efficient centralization of information. So, how do we improve development processes, especially when we're talking about collaboration? I want to dig into that topic here to help illuminate how to engage with some of the best practices in Jama Connect, as well as why these approaches are suggested. One of the worst things in the digital age is trying to find something, right? You want to find that document, you can't. But I actually believe that the next worst thing, or maybe even worse, is when you find the information and you simply can't understand its intention, why it was written the way it was, and you're trying to decipher why the decision was the way that it is, why the requirement exists, or generally why something really came to be in the way that it is today. So let's pretend you're a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed new engineer developing something like a next-generation munition for a cutting-edge new fighter jet. The team you are on has been tasked with taking a legacy design, 25 years of work, and revamping it for the modern age, using more sophisticated components and integrating, whatever else it might be there. You show up day one of this effort and begin to realize all the legacy design was completed 25 plus years ago. There are a few Holy Grail documents that really guided the design, but much of the system was developed before teams had adopted data-centric tools, right? Like Jama Connect. So you sift through mountains of paperwork to determine why the system was designed the way it was. And that's not inherently all that easy to do. It's time-taking. It is difficult to get the right information out. Now imagine 25 years in the future, still you, still same person. You are now leading the charge of another new development. Same scenario, new fighter jet, new munition. But now it's another new fighter jet, another new munition. This time you sit down on day one and you log into Jama Connect, filled with itemized requirements, regulations, interfaces, and other information that has comments and commentary, like you see here on the right side of the screen, from engineers who develop stuff. And you see the call and the response between them and their teammates. You can filter on all this information. You can search for key topics. You can start from either one single item or sort through all of the information and commentary in the database. In this example, I think it's easy to see the difference firsthand of how centralizing communication can support long-term wins, right? You're this new person jumping onto a program or whatever it might be, and you've got all the information you could ever need to go figure it out. Additionally, if you kind of take a step back and you think about each day that those teams were developing that information, it can be, pretty quickly noted that it was easy for them to do a lot of this stuff in the short term as well, right? They didn't slow down to do any of it. Each team member was able to transparently see why decisions were made, what was approved when. They actively understand the intention of different requirements or different data in the tool, and they quickly collaborate together via, notifications via email, jumping into the tool, whatever it might be. But even if the notifications are going out of the tool, they're coming back to that centralized location to continue the conversation. But that is not the only benefit these teams are getting from this kind of structured, common, standardized collaboration approach. Administrators of the tool will be able to configure underlying data model, workflow, other processes. And we're going to talk about each of those things as we go on here. Looking here, though, just to dive a little deeper into how these users are communicating with each other, you can see in the screenshots below that you can directly mention and tag people. You can call things a decision or a question or an issue so that they're easy to filter on later in time, and so that you can resolve those issues, decisions, and other things. It's really challenging, and I found this throughout my career, no matter where I've worked, that when you can't find the data or the reason why the data was created, that you like lose the ability to really understand it and grasp it. Jama Connect's comments and then the stream within Jama allow users to solve mostly all of that issue with firsthand commentary, documentation, and information along the way dedicated to each specific item or projects or other kind of information bits within the tool. Now, structured collaboration is more than just that. We've got more than just comments in the stream. Jama Connect has a built-in review center that also tracks all sorts of simple peer reviews, as well as documenting really, signature-heavy, full-on approvals of different versions of items, whole folders of information, or maybe even massive amounts of data. Utilizing the review center allows a team to quickly, show red lines like you can see on the screenshot here, which enables really a streamlined review process that can help eliminate meetings, right? If you have all the information at your fingertips as a reviewer or approver, with a few clicks, you can see everything that's been changed. There's really no need for the meeting culture that we live in today, and that can be very, very beneficial for speed. You can approve, reject, add a comment, whatever it might be. And it's all going to be captured live. And anywhere the team has access to Jama Connect, they can access this information. Meaning those complex collaborations that involve varying time zones, locations, personnel, they simplify down to just the data on your screen, the comments going back and forth. Maybe you make a phone call to one person to understand what they meant, but that's about it, right? It's quick, it's fast, and it's kind of on demand. Moderators of reviews also can evaluate the time each person is spending in the review to make sure nobody's getting left behind or comments are being left out. They can update the review and create new versions of the item. So if somebody were to have edited that one on the right here again, and we need a red line to that red line, you'd see that as well. All this, of course, vastly simplifies a team's collaboration efforts and ensures that all of the information is always accessible to those who need it. Doing this is going to help you optimize as a team in a way that, wasn't accessible before. You now can put it all together. You can move fast. You can work together. You can use the review center. It doesn't really matter what level of the company you're in. You're all going to get the access you need and be able to push together. Going beyond this, getting into the nitty-gritty for just a moment, let's talk about the standardization that a general user will become accustomed to based on the efforts of the admin team. We just kind of mentioned the admin team, but let's talk a little bit more about what they're going to do for you. And they're going to be able to help you and everybody else kind of configure Jama in a way that's accessible, standard, simplified, and really good for the team. They're going to configure Jama's item types, the traceability information model, which that sounds like some jargon. We're going to show what that is in a moment here. The project templates, the workflows, and so much more. And that's going to shape the way that users see the tool. The options built into the traceability information model are going to prompt different parts of the UI to have different selections and options for the user, as well as red flags when things aren't done appropriately. Doing this, of course, will ensure that each user has a standard approach and experience when developing, reviewing, or modifying information in the tool. And as we progress throughout the rest of this webinar, I'll provide some tips and tricks. They'll be, spread out of what the admins can deploy up front, and then, they can enable some iterative progression and improvement so the team becomes more and more confident in Jama Connect.